really know how to start this one. So. Anyway, it all started with a car, I guess. 72 El Camino to be exact. Anyway, we were scheduled to do, or we were going to do the same job. That's how we met. We were at a meeting before a job. And it makes it sound like it's some big deal, but it wasn't. And where we live, back when we were kids, detasseling corn was a thing kids did, country kids especially did, in the summer. Sometimes it was the only job you could get, because in the 80s it was not easy to find work for kids. And it was a way we could, make money for the summer. But anyway, so we were both supervisors of this thing, and we were having a meeting before the season started. And I had already done it. I was 18, so I had already done it 4 years prior. I mean, I started doing this when I was 13, and I really did not want to do it. I was trying to find anything and everything to do besides that. I was going away to college in the fall, and I just did not want to do that again. And there was just nothing. I couldn't seem to get. I couldn't even get a job bussing tables. Not that that's my gig. I would have hated that, but I couldn't get that. So it rolled around. It's like, this is the only thing I could get. So I go to this meeting. Begrudgingly, I did not want to be there. So I go, and I'm sitting at the end of a picnic table, like this one, and I'm sitting there waiting for this thing to get started, and we were in a park. At the time, at this particular park, there was a drive up by what used to be a dam and a waterfall from a dam from an old mill. So her dad drove her to this meeting, which is cute in and of itself because we're both 18 years old, but she gets brought over by her dad. But I didn't know that. All I know is I saw this 72 El Camino come rolling in, and I'd seen the car around town at different times. And like I said, we were only 10 miles apart. So I'd seen the car before. And it come rolling in, and it backed up there and parked. And I'm sitting there watching this car thinking, that's pretty cool. Her dad was a hot rodder from years. So yeah, it was pretty cool. He had it set up pretty cool. Anyway, I'm sitting there looking at this car, waiting for this meeting to start, and who gets out of it? She does. And the what had crossed my mind when she got out of the car. I mean, you can think, 18-year-old boy, this tall blonde gets out of this car. You can imagine what would go through just about any 18-year-old boy's head. And that is not what went through mine. What went through my head was, the very first thought I had was, there she is. I don't know why, but that's what went through my mind. There she is. And the whole time she's walking over the table, I said, I'm watching her. Probably staring, I don't know. I don't think I was. She says I was, but I was. And the whole time she's walking over there, I'm like, come sit by me, come sit by me. I'm thinking, you need to come sit by me. I wanted to talk to her. I wanted to know her. I wanted to, find out everything I could about her. And does she come sit by me? No, she doesn't. She sits at the far end of the table. Why?
Because I was scared to death. Because I was shy, believe it or not.
And she saw me watching her, and so she decides to stay as far away from me as possible. And I'm like so I'm thinking to myself, well, that sucks. But then it had its own benefits because she's sitting at the opposite end of the table, and we're facing each other. So you can say a lot without saying anything. And so we were looking at each other through the whole meeting, and I can't tell you what the meeting was about. I can't tell you anything about it. I don't know. I'm sure it had to do with work and what we were going to do and when it was going to start and blah, 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 blah. doesn't really matter.
Well, we were in charge of a bunch of kids.
Right. We were supervisors of all these little kids. Well, not little kids, but 13-year-old up to us that were going to be pulling tassels and stuff. And so that was going to be our responsibility. But at the end of this whole thing, because we don't need to bore you with all that because it doesn't matter. But at the end of all this, she asked Carol, the lady that was running the meeting, because she needed a ride to work. And so Carol announced that Becky needed a ride to work. Does anybody drive by her house? And I said, I shot my hand right up. I do. I'll give her a ride. Okay, Tim will give you a ride. And she was okay, good. I got a ride, and that was that. So the meeting gets over, and she's walking back to her dad's car and everything, and I'm like going, I have no idea where this woman lives. So I ran over to her, and I'm like, hey. And she stops, and I said, where do you live? And she laughed, which was always a good thing. She goes, I thought you'd drive by my house. And I'm like, I will, just as soon as you tell me where that is.
Could have been 10 miles out of his
I
way.
didn't care where it was. I did not care. There was nobody going to drive her to work but me. If I had anything to say about it, it didn't matter where she lived. I would have went there, and I would have picked her up, and I would have taken her to work. As it turned out, I did drive by her house. So that worked out pretty good for that. But the weird part about all this is we were both. Well, you tell your part as far as when you got there and all that, because I don't really know.
Well, like we said, I was very shy when I was 18. I can't even remember if I'd even had taken driver's training yet. I think I took it when I was 17, but my parents kept me very, very, very coddled and very protected, sheltered, all that. So I didn't have a car of my own to drive at all, and my dad always took me to everything I needed to do. So it was actually only about 5 miles away from where I lived. So my dad worked for himself. He said he was a hot rod guy. He actually did body work, and hot rods were always his thing. So I always say I was raised smelling paint fumes because the body shop was on the front acre, but I always was around the cars a lot. And so, but I was just really coddled and, I don't know, kept down a little bit. Mom and Dad didn't want me to be a bad girl or anything, so they kept me repressed. And anyways, so Dad drove me to the park. And so I was just really shy. And getting out of the car, I was scared to death. I mean, you got to realize that field work was mostly guys, which had its ups when you're an 18-year-old trying to find a nice guy. I don't know if they're all nice, but
no,
not all of them are nice.
No.
But there was guys in the field. Either way, they're just country kids. That's what we did in the summer. And I was just really scared and nervous because it was a job that I knew nothing about. Couldn't even believe I got that job because I detasseled 2 other years before that as a regular detasseler. And so I was excited, but I was really scared too. But I wasn't going to let it stop me. And I was there, and
that was the part. Some of what attracted me to her anyway, because I could tell, that she was apprehensive, but yet still, I'm going to do this kind of thing. And there was just something. There was an innocence about her, and that very much attracted me to her. Not to say that all of this isn't attractive too, but her whole demeanor, the way she was, the way she walked, everything, there was something about it that was said, not only is she competent enough to make herself do this when she was outside of her comfort zone, but at the same time, but I am very much a protector, very much, and I wanted that job. I wanted to take care of her. I wanted to make sure that she got to work and made sure that she was taken care of. And so for me, it just worked. It worked for both of us. She needed a ride. I think she needed somebody to kind of just, make
Look out
sure,
for me.
yeah, make sure everything's everything, and I was willing to do that. I wanted to do that. And so it just, that part of it worked. The other stuff came shortly after, but as far as her, getting out of the car and all that stuff, it was, there was just something about that whole thing that just really attracted me to her. But there was something about it anyway that was, I was drawn to her from the second I saw her. And people will say, "Oh, love at first sight." No, I, I think, I mean, without sounding too corny, I think I was in love with her before I even saw her. I was just waiting to see her, waiting to, to find her, because like I said, there she is was what come across my mind. It wasn't, oh my God, she's hot, or she's beautiful, or she's this, or she's that. Not that she wasn't, but that's not what I was thinking. That was not my first thought. My first thought was, there she is. I have to know her. I have to talk to her. And so it was different than any other girl that I'd ever met or talked to before. And I dated a little bit in high school, and she did too. For me, it was like, I go out on a date, we have fun, everything's like that. And I never pursued a second one. And it wasn't that I didn't have a good time, and it wasn't that I didn't like the person. It was, she's just not it. And as time has progressed, I realized that I was looking for my mate.
We were both in that place. We were both on that same level. We're not just dating to have fun. I don't think we ever really did that.
No.
I didn't ever
No.
really just date to have fun. I did date a few guys just to get out of the house, so I guess that kind of counts for that. But I knew they weren't the right ones, but it got me out of the house, and then shortly after it would have been a
There was
break.
a couple of them. I'm like, really?
Hey, it got me out of the house.
But whatever. I won't get into
It
that.
got me out of the house.
Right. So
But
I really wasn't looking to get out of the house. Well, I can't say that, because I mean, when I asked a girl out, I knew, it was just to go have fun and go do something, and it was because that's what everybody did. It's just I looked at it differently. I wasn't looking at it from the perspective of this is just to have fun. It was to see. Little did I know, because I said, when you're 18 years old or younger, you don't know. You're just doing what you think and all this, and but it wasn't right. And if it wasn't right, well, why do it again?
Why do it?
Why do it again? It's like that's not. And like I said, now that I know what I know that I was looking for my mate. I was looking for my wife. I was looking for her.
And believe it or not, even being 18 years old, we're definitely both in that place.
Oh yeah.
Same place, same time.
Absolutely.
We were looking for our forever person.
Yep. Absolutely.
I don't know if we realized it, but we were.
Well, you can't really realize it. I mean, time and our life together and life experiences has taught us that. In that moment, no, I don't think that's what we thought we were doing. I think, but then I do think that once we were on the first date and we had a chance to just be alone together and talk and stuff and kiss too. I mean, there was things about it that just solidified everything, our life together. I mean, it was like, that was like, once we get past those little things, it was like, for me anyway, it's like, okay, I'm good. I think you were too, in the sense that, I mean, I didn't scare you away, and I was trying really hard not to come off too strong too fast, because I think I'm more of a, once I get my mind made up, I'm full steam ahead, blinders on, and I'm not looking at it from side to side. You are too, but back then you weren't quite as, focused as you are now. Now you're very much that way. But back then, you were looking left and right, making sure that, keeping your options open and all that stuff. And
I'll admit it.
And you did do that.
I'll admit it.
Right up until
because Oh no, that'll be a different video. Never mind. that'll be another video.
But you did do that, and but at some point, you know, it was pretty obvious that we were exclusive with each other, and you know, and I was the first to say I love you first, and it was fairly quick, but it's like, you know what, I know what I feel, and I believed she had the right to know. And I guess if that was going to blow up my face, better do it now than later, because, you know, I didn't feel that it was going to blow up my face, though. I really didn't. I didn't know how quickly it was going to be reciprocated. But I did. But I made the first move every time. I mean, I asked her out. I made sure that I was driving her to work. All of those things.
But I was old-fashioned, so that really worked for me.
Well, I was too.
I was raised very old-fashioned, like you.
Yep.
And I did leave it up to the guy. I wouldn't have asked a guy out. I wouldn't have. I might have called the guy, but I wouldn't have asked him out.
Right.
That's, to me, that was the guy's spot. So it all worked.
It should be. I mean, I know we're, you know, that's maybe not the way people think anymore, but I do think that that's the way it should be. Although some guys do need a kick in the butt to get them to, you know. But I knew. I mean, I'm telling you what, that first day at work, man, I was like, and I never did this, ever. I didn't know her from other than driving her to work. That was it. But I knew if I don't ask her now, somebody else is gonna. And then I'm going to be left standing here going, you are the biggest dumbass, because there was something about, I just knew, and once she starts dating somebody else, that's it. She's not going to look, and I wanted to be that guy. And I think, and I do believe that I knew that she was meant for me before she realized it her own self a little bit. I think she was a little bit behind me in that, but not too far. But there was a little bit of lapse between the two of us in that regard. But I had a fire lit under me, and I just asked, and I was like, I don't know how this is gonna go, but I don't care. and I was scared to death. And I walked up to her. I could take you to the exact spot in the field. I could take you to the field in the exact spot where I did. And
maybe we'll have to.
Maybe
do that.
that's what I got. Maybe.
He got a maybe.
And I was like, yep, that's not a no.
Yeah.
That's a yes. She just doesn't know it yet.
Right.
And I was good with that. And then we get to the end of the field, and later on that day, we found out we had a Friday off together, and I just said, hey, we got Friday off.
Well, we'll talk more about that.
I know, but you want to do something, and guess what I got?
Yep.
See, maybe was a yes. You just
maybe was a yes.
So anyway, I mean, that's kind of how this whole thing started. It started with a car. I was paying attention to a car until she got out. I still wish I had the car, and I wished her dad still had the car. But he got rid of it, and that's unfortunate. But we'll find another one. I want to have another one for her to drive, just because it means something to me. We're both car people anyway. That's another thing we have in common. I mean, she grew up in a body shop, and her dad built hot rods. You know, did body work on them for other people.
And yes, I helped. I used to sand cars with my dad. That was another way to spend time with him. And get out of the house. There was always a reason to get out of the house.
and I was always about them. Built one myself. Still have it. Doesn't look very nice now, but I still have it. But anyway, we're both car people, and so that was something that we still enjoy to this day, going to car shows and stuff from time to time.
Dreaming about what we want to drive.
Yeah, and she's modeled with some. You know, and I think you probably have seen some of those pictures and stuff. So, you know,
just go back through the YouTube videos, you'll find some.
But you know, that's the thing, and it just is one of those things that tells me that we were meant to be. I know there's a lot of people out there that are into cars and stuff, but.
When you hear our whole story, you're going to realize that there's so many things. And we've just realized some just in this last year that we've been really reflecting on a lot of stuff, and we really realized that, oh my God, we were the same that way, or we were opposite in a way that we actually were good for each other. We were the yin and yang to each other.
Yeah.
And if we'd have been the same in those departments, we'd have been in trouble. So being able to be opposite, like you always said, we're a machine. We fit together like this.
Yeah, and that is very true. Her shortcomings are my strengths. My shortcomings are her strengths, and so we're better together than we are apart. We're stronger when we're together than we are apart.
Yep.
Because there are times where I have to lean on her, and there are times that she leans on me. Most of the time, it's her leaning on me, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But in the last couple of years, last 2-3 years, we've had instances where I had to relinquish that, and it was hard. But we'll get into that.
We'll get to that. Yeah.
But it was a learning experience for me, especially because I had to relinquish my control, if you will. I kind of hesitate to say that because I don't want people to think that I control her in any way, because that's not what we're about. I definitely am the leader, and she's the follower. But I take her advisement in decisions that we make and things that we do. It's not my way or the highway.
It's a give and take,
Yeah.
like any marriage should be. A successful marriage is a give and take. Even if you have a strong partner, it's still a give and take.
And we are very strong.
But that's the other thing we're going to show you through these videos, that we figured out that we're actually very strong individuals, and it's not common for two people of our strength to stay together, because they usually will butt heads. And
we do.
We do, and we fight with the fury of the gods.
It's ugly when we get to going.
An Aries and a Gemini, look that up. It's crazy, but
yeah, it's one of those things, and but it makes us stronger too, So that's that.
So that's
It all started with a car.
It all started with a car. And we're gonna try our hardest to find that picture. Get that up for you. So, okay guys, so this concludes the first in our series. Be sure to keep watching, because we're gonna keep doing these, and we're just gonna take some time and do it. Just do it. So, thanks guys for watching. Be sure to subscribe, be sure to like, and leave us a comment. We want to know your feedback. Okay guys, thanks.